standing by for any Q&A questions.
So we're happy to be here just to give you a little update on how we got here. We finished the film in March. We premiered at Tribeca in April. We showed it at the Provincetown Film Festival, and last weekend we showed it at Telluride. And Thursday night we had a premiere in Los Angeles. And now it's opening weekend, and we're thrilled to see all the seats filled. Thanks for coming. Anybody have any questions?
Raise your hand, please. All right, right over here.
What prompted the film in the first place? Why did you choose Linda as the subject?
Well, always a fan. I can't say that I was a die-hard fan, but had a lot of her records. The first record I bought was Different Drum, her first hit single. But didn't really know a lot about her. I don't know if I had ever heard her being interviewed or read anything about her, so I didn't really have a deep impression about her. I just knew that I liked her music. And then I heard her, about 5 years ago, I heard her on Terry Gross when her book, Simple Dreams, came out. And I was just captivated. I was captivated by her telling of her own story, her intelligence, her great sense of humor. Read the book, Jeffrey and I read the book, and thought, wow, this would make a great documentary, make a great movie. And I had the book on my desk at home. Jeffrey and I both live in San Francisco. And my computer repair guy, Phil Donian, was over and saw the book and said, Linda Ronstadt's a client of mine. So that's how we were able to get to Linda. You never know. And wrote to her, and she wrote back right away, very polite rejection letter saying thanks but no thanks. And then we wrote her again, and the second letter we gave a little more detail about what we had in mind, what our intention was, which was to really have her be the teller of her own story. We wanted it to be her voice in all of its dimensions, her literary voice, her musical voice, her personal voice. And that didn't quite win her over, but she agreed to have lunch. So we had lunch with her at Zuni, and it was a lovely lunch, but she, at that lunch, said, nobody's gonna want to see this, nobody's gonna want to fund it, you're deluded. But fortunately, she came around. But you know, as we got more into the substance of it, we came to really see that what a trailblazer she was and what a virtuoso, and we were very excited with the challenge and the opportunity to try and tell her musical journey in film form as she did in her own autobiography.
Yeah, great film, first of all. Thank you so much. You got David Geffen and Peter Asher and Jackson Browne and Joe Smith, I think his name was. Anyone that you tried to get as a contemporary interview that you did not get? Or that you wanted and didn't come through in some way?
Linda is really loved, and it was really easy to get people to say yes. There were a couple people that we were hoping to get and tried to, but it was really a scheduling issue. They were on tour. Jimmy Webb, songwriter, we were hoping to get. We had a really limited production schedule. We started editing a year ago, August, right? This is September, right? So a year ago, August, we started editing and we started shooting interviews in October, right? And so we had a very, very short window in which we could schedule people. We're really happy with the people we got.
Thank you for making the film. It was great. Curious as to what Linda thinks about the finished product and whether she's ever going to come out with you guys to have a chat with the audience.
We so wish she could. We wish she could be here right now with us. But she's limited in terms of what she can do physically. She's completely engaged with the world and with her friends and family, but she's limited in terms of her mobility. She saw the film 2 weeks before we finished editing. We had a private screening for it at the Delancey Street screening room. And we were really nervous. She sat way in the back row. So we couldn't really see her reaction as she was watching the film, but afterwards she said that we did a great job.
And very characteristically, she still can't understand why people are so interested in her.
And in the back, okay. Come over to you and then in the back. Okay.
Was it hard to convince her to sing at the end?
Yeah, the question was it hard to convince her to sing at the end? Well, a condition in making the film was that she said from the get-go she wasn't going to sit down for an interview, she wasn't going to be in it. You know, we had her blessing, but it couldn't be dependent on her actual participating in any way.
She wasn't even going to narrate it?
The narration is constructed from interviews that she did over the course of 50 years. So credit to our editor and our sound mixer that it sounds as if it's one track, but in fact it's from Linda at age 21 to Linda at age 73.
And some brief interviews that we did with her.
Yeah, in the end, we did sit down with her and did some audio interviewing with her. And at the very end, she invited our crew to go with her on this trip to Mexico that she had planned. And that happened in about the last 2 weeks of editing. We had been talking with her. We knew we had to somehow find a way to bring her into the present tense in the film, and we were having that conversation with her. She was fine with acknowledging her Parkinson's. She just didn't want the film to be about her Parkinson's. So I think Linda's very smart. She thought this was an honest way to do that, to just have the camera there in her moment now as she's living her life in that scene.
And I saw one in the back. Anyone? Front?
Here.
All right. Come down this way.
You could just ask him, we'll repeat it.
Love Linda and love the movie. I was a little surprised about skipping over La Boheme. The Broadway La Boheme.
Yeah, that was, we had to make choices. We wanted to acknowledge her opera and operetta period, and we decided to use Pirates for that because it was a more successful venture on her part, and there was more footage, and there was a movie. La Boheme, there was very little to work with. And at that point in the film, we're about an hour in it, and we sort of need to keep things moving along. So it was just one of those choices we had to make.
It was really wonderful. How do you go about gathering all the footage and finding all these all the different concerts and archival stuff?
We had a great team. Producer James Keach and his team really are responsible for overseeing all that. Great archival researcher. And Linda opened up her archive to us, so some of the concert footage was footage that Linda had. Certainly all the family photos and all of that. But it's a treasure hunt. You never know what you can find.
Here.
See some, on the other side. I'll get to you in 1 second.
Two things. One is just a commentary, which is thank you so much. I grew up near on the border of New Mexico and Arizona, and some of the things that she talked about and that you brought to light, there's a lot about having your history and your heritage sort of withheld. That was so fabulous. Thank you. I've lived that, and it was so meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Secondly, oh my gosh, like how amazing! Like aside from like, one, I think in the age and this time, there's a lot of talk about diversity and inclusion, a lot about people of color and gender equality and gender equity, and as a woman in that particular time, how fantastically just powerful she was in such an effortless way. So to that, it's amazing. Secondarily, you had so much to work with, like just the tying in like all of the audio that was heard, which is amazing. The footage, the interviews, all of that general stuff aside, which is not make light of it. What were your biggest challenges in making this?
Constructing a narrative around the music where the music would feel like it was really standing on its own. It was really important for us to let the songs play long enough so that you felt that you were in them, with them. A lot of music docs will have a talking head and just a snippet of a song and then move on to the next subject. And so I think it was finding that balance between the music and the story and making it feel organic and coherent.
So Linda's a very private person, and that was in large part why she didn't want a film made. She just didn't want that kind of attention. She never wanted that kind of attention. She never really wanted to be a celebrity. So it was finding that balance of respecting her own desires for privacy, and at the same time giving enough of her and her personality and personhood so that we all can feel, really get to feel who she is, which is, a remarkable person.
I was really lucky to see her play out at the Concord Pavilion with Nelson Riddle. And I mean, it was just incredible because I was, of course, familiar with her pop and country stuff. And then later, her brother came to play at a house music concert in my neighborhood. And he had a band called the Santa Cruz River Band from Tucson. And they sang all those Spanish songs, and it was just incredible to hear that too. But I was wondering, since it didn't really come up in the film, did you ever happen to ask her what was her favorite type of music over the years? Did she have a favorite?
I think she would say the canciones. That's certainly where she says she felt like she fully became a singer, or she fully bloomed as a singer. And I think you can see that in her performance. You just see how everything has come together for her in those performances.
I have one over here.
Hi, I particularly wanted to compliment you, Rob, because it's not often that we have a filmmaker who made a film about Harvey Milk and then went on to make a film about Linda Ronstadt. So, congratulations.
Two pioneers.
I wondered if, since it's, CNN has a credit at the beginning, will it be then seen on CNN Sunday night as opposed to PBS American Masters?
Yeah, it'll be on CNN New Year's Day. Yeah. So, but before that, it's open this weekend in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. What did I say?
San Francisco twice.
Well, it's playing in Berkeley, so that counts for twice. And it's opening nationwide next weekend, so please help us spread the word.
A real quick story that I think illustrates her perfectionism. I worked at KQED in the 70s and 80s, and Canciones was taped and shot by Great Performances. And Linda came in to tape some pledge pitches, fundraising pitches, both in English and Spanish. And when we did the ones in Spanish, I had a guy that worked in the mailroom who was Spanish speaking, who would listen to what she said and then became the critic. But she was incredibly anxious to make sure that her Spanish was perfect and on those spots.
Yeah, that's what I love about that scene with Ruben Blades, when you see her working.
All right, I see one over there.
Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful film. Even though she didn't think anybody would be interested in seeing it, and we got to see all these people who loved her. Obviously, there were people who did want to see it and who funded you. I'm not asking you about who funds were, but was it, once you started, was it easy to raise the funds?
Well, Linda was right about one thing initially. We didn't find funders right away, so that first conversation with her, and we optioned the book in 2015, and it wasn't until 2018 that we connected with James Keach, the producer of the film, and he had heard from CNN Films that Mark Zucker, in fact, was interested in doing something on Linda Ronstadt. So then it was fortuitous, and it happened very quickly once James and CNN came on board.
Great for you. See you at the Oscars.
Any more? One more? Okay.
Will this be on a streaming service later?
Eventually, it'll be in a streaming service, yeah. We have no idea where.
Thank you so much. Oh, one more? Okay, one more question.
It was really great to see the photographs and history of Tucson, because I'm not from Tucson, but I do remember her from those early years, and just to really thank her for her voice and participation in this. Her voice is beautiful.
Thank you.
Did she have a sense of how much she's admired and loved?
Does she have a sense of how much she's admired and loved? I don't know if she really does. I think she's taking this in. I was actually just communicating with her assistant Janet this morning and asked that question. And Janet said she doesn't usually read any reviews or anything about herself, but she has been reading about the great response. So I think she's letting herself take it in. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm Jeffrey. Thank you.